Hi there, Carrie Peterson. I am here. I chose cell phone policy to discuss with you today, and so let's get started. The current handbook policy at Hayes High School says and states that portable communication devices may not be turned on or used in school during the school day, 7:56 a.m. to 3 o'clock p.m. in detention or in ISS. The exception is during the 5-minute passing period between classes, which I find to be kind of ironic because that seems to be when lots of kids get their phones taken away. I'm not sure that that the staff in the building has actually read the student handbook policy very well. It clearly stated there that is the only time that they can actually have their phones out and use them. This did not include lunch period of passing to and from lunch. So the consequences are, the first offense, they lose their phone for the day. The second offense, they lose their phone and their parent or guardian has to pick it up in the main office. And the third offense would be 2 days of ISS, and that would be subsequent to a 4 to 10-day ISS depending on what occurred, and the loss of their phone up to the end of the school year. Here's why I think we need new rules. The old rules really aren't working efficiently. Not all teachers are enforcing the rules in the same way. I know that I really don't have an issue with kids having their phones out, using them in class for educational purposes. I don't have a problem with students with their headphones and listening to music if I am finished lecturing and they are working. I really don't have an issue with that. There are several teachers that do have an issue with that. Those are some of the things that I think we need to talk about. And I think the only time to talk about that is probably during staff meetings, which isn't really the topic that you want to bring up, but it's something that really needs to be discussed. Because times have changed in regard to technology in school. I mean, we're in a one-to-one initiative in my school district. We are handing devices to children in kindergarten, and we need to change our perspective of cell phone use in school. I think it's really important that we start to teach digital citizenship. I feel like that's something that we kind of just expect parents to do, and frankly, parents aren't really doing that. Of course, you always have parents that will. I do that. You know, I've always told my own children and the children in my classroom and the young adults in my classroom that whatever you put out there, once you've hit send, it's gone. You can pretend like you deleted it, but it's never really deleted. So anything you put out there is a forever there. Think about that before you put it out there. We need to educate students to be responsible with their devices and not hide or misuse their devices. There's really no reason to hide it if we're using it correctly. Not be afraid to have it out in class when we're playing a game of Kahoot and their Surface isn't working right, or Wi-Fi is causing them problems. Their cell phone provider obviously isn't, so they need to flip into their cell phone provider and use that if they need to complete their work. We're in a one-to-one technology initiative, which I mentioned earlier. We already use Surface tablets throughout the school day at Hayes High. Cell phones are another tablet or computer in our hands to utilize throughout the day. How is our cell phone really any different than our tablet for daily use? I think that's just a question I'd like to put out there for everybody. Is it really different? Or is it just another device that we can utilize, that our students can utilize for their learning experience? And again, to continue teaching digital responsibility. It's very important, and I don't feel like our district right now really has anything in place for digital citizenship, so I think that's something else that we need to work on. You know, cell phones can be used for so many things. For music, positive and negative. Online access, positive and negative. For calculators, pictures for classes. I have a student who's in a digital photography class. He uses his phone as his camera because he can't afford a camera. And he already has the phone, so why not? It's something that you have. Why do we have an issue with them using those devices? The video is a positive and a negative. It depends on how it's being utilized. And, you know, also, like I said before, when Wi-Fi is not cooperating in the classroom, why can't they bring their phone out and use it to complete an assignment? Why is the proper use of cell phones important? Well, first you have to realize that courts in New Jersey and New York have supported the school's authority to ban the use of cell phones in public schools. It is not a violation of a student's First Amendment freedoms. Therefore, it is actually a privilege and must be used accordingly. School officials are delegated the authority to maintain a safe and orderly environment to facilitate teaching and learning. So in other words, if a cell phone is not being used in a disruptive manner, technically we shouldn't be taking those cell phones from students. With that being said, I have a few students, well, one student, who feels the need to not be responsible with his phone, and I have taken his phone for the simple reason that when I have tried to have a conversation with him, he doesn't want to listen to me, so he pulls out his phone in a disrespectful manner and proceeds to look at his phone instead of look at me. Now that is an instance when, by all means, I think the phone should be taken. However, the majority of my students, and I would say 95% plus, do not ever misuse the cell phones that they have. I think most educators are also worried about cell phones concerning the protection of other students, which is a really valid argument. However, I think that if there was a way for us to just completely block social media from inside of the school building, that would be probably the best thing to do. I'm not sure that that will ever happen. I think that Snapchat's a real issue. I think that we have other social media sites such as Yik Yak and Twitter, of course Facebook, that can be utilized by kids throughout the day. And again, it goes back to digital citizenship. How are they using them, and do they know how to use them correctly? And are they using them correctly? District policy here in USD 489 is outlined briefly, and by briefly I mean there is a little section in the handbook, in the student handbook, discussing policy on cell phone usage. And I feel that the policy really needs to be updated yearly, and students as well as parents need to read and comply with cell phone usage. I think that everyone involved should have to sign an acceptable use policy, and it should be no different than when they are handed their devices at the beginning of the year, their Surface, their iPad, whatever it may be, that needs to be signed immediately, and there will be no questions about what the expectations are. And I think the expectations need to be clearly outlined as well. And again, that's possibly going to change year to year with the way technology continues to advance. Technology is constantly changing, and therefore our policies cannot be expected to remain the same year in and year out. And I also believe that all employees must adhere to the policy when dealing with students. Again, I work with some teachers who are, well, for better lack of the word, they police phone usage in the building. They could be walking down the hall and will see a phone immediately and continue to the student and take it away. And myself, I feel like there are so many other things that I could be doing rather than worrying about a cell phone in the hallway. But that being said, I think that all employees must adhere to the policy, whatever that policy might be, and stick to it when dealing with students. My classroom is my classroom. What I do inside of it, I suppose, is what I choose to do inside of it. As long as it's within board policy, it shouldn't be an issue. And I feel like a lot of teachers inside of Hays High really don't have an issue with cell phones. It's just a minimal amount, and I think that we as a staff could sit down and maybe make some of those policies and stick to them a little bit better. And then the students would know what the expectations are. As far as digital citizenship goes, why is it so important today? It really needs to be taught early on in school. We are placing iPads in all students' hands in kindergarten, and digital citizenship should begin to be taught at the primary levels in schools. Excuse my typo there. I think that it's just super important for us to share with our kids the right way to use their devices, because a lot of them are not going to get that knowledge at home. And yet again, that'll be one more thing we need to teach our students. But you know, we care about them. We want them to grow up to be productive citizens in society, and that is one way that we can also continue to be difference makers for them. My experience is that my students are generally very responsible with their cell phones in my class. I've had very few problems with students using them incorrectly during the school day. You know, one or two kids who choose to be disrespectful, but other than that, I have very, very little issues with cell phones. It frustrates me that everyone's not on the same page when it comes to consequences for students utilizing their cell phones during the school day. Everybody seems to kind of have a different idea about what is right and what is wrong. And I just, you know, I think, how can we change the current policy to fit our needs today? I think, you know, the way we had to worry about cell phones, and even, you know, every cell phone has a camera on it now. You know, 5 years ago that wasn't the case. And in the district I taught in previously, they had issues with cameras even on the flip phones, and so you weren't allowed to have a cell phone with a camera at school. You could have a cell phone, but not a cell phone with a camera. Well, now that would be virtually impossible to do because, you know, as far as I know, just about every cell phone out there today has a camera on it. So how are we going to change policy to fit the needs of our students today and in our classrooms today? And are cell phones really a problem at school? In my opinions, cell phones are not typically a problem at school. We allow students to use technology all day long at school. Why is a cell phone any different? Devise a district policy that meets the needs of students today. Make changes as necessary yearly to keep up with the advancement of cell phones and technology. And, you know, probably one of the final things I'd like to end on is that one size does not fit all in just about every situation we encounter when dealing with students and people in general. And I think that cell phones really are no different, and that we need to keep that in mind when we deal with our students in our classrooms, in our buildings, as teachers, as administrators, at every level inside of a building. And I guess that would be the end of my presentation. Thank you.